Hi everyone, welcome back to the Anand studio. Today we have a new special guest, Mr. Ramaswamy Meyyappan. He is a lawyer and a political analyst and very experienced at that. So we'll talk about multiple issues centering around Delhi and Himachal Pradesh today. Namaskaram, Ram sir. Thanks for your time.
Namaskaram, how are you?
All good. How are you?
Very good.
Good to see you again.
Yes, it's
Um,
extensive
yeah.
travel across the country that brings in a little more joy as well. So one in meeting the people and two in seeing how the elections are unfolding.
Superb. So where all did you go?
So I spent a little bit of time around Indore, Ujjain, and Bhopal, but most of my time around Himachal Pradesh. So good extensive about 10 days, especially in Mandi and Hamirpur.
Oh, okay. So we'll talk about that
Yes.
in a bit. So yeah, now coming to Delhi. So a lot of things happening in Delhi. It's kind of a hot spot now with for the news and all that. A lot of things going on. First, let's start with Mr. Kejriwal's bail getting approved, okay, by the court, and so now he's out on bail, interim bail or whichever. So what do you think? That has raised some eyebrows, right, across the board. What do you think?
True. It's a very strange scenario. So, till date, the court has not taken election into consideration for granting bail as a special reason. This should be the one-off incident that is started. I'm hoping it doesn't trigger off multiple bails and interim bails just for people to contest in elections. I think a common man, a lay person, should have the same right as much as an elected representative or a person who's wanting to be an elected representative or running a political party or heading a political party. If that distinction starts being drawn by the court that these are different people, different classes of people, then people may not find the judicial system as approachable as they used to think it was. I'm not saying the order in itself is incorrect. It's reasoned, it is practical, but the concern for a lay person is that when I apply, my reasoning may be more emergent than a person wanting to go campaign in elections. So, how do I categorize that emergent reason? Is campaigning in an election more of an urgency and a necessity under the Constitution versus someone seeking for medical assistance that may be moderate but not absolutely necessary at that point in time? How do I draw that distinction? Will courts be able to draw that qualitative distinction? Will come into question. That should not be raised by common man. For lawyers, it's a good system because already we've started using this as an advantage to try and get bails for a few other people. So if you look at Tejasvi Surya's matter in Karnataka High Court said there is no necessity in election time for you to get out of the process. The Supreme Court upheld the same. And if you look at the West Bengal High Court in former Justice Gangopadhyay's matter, again used the very same Arvind Kejriwal's matter. So this kind of a precedent is something that I don't want to be set, but that's a personal opinion over a judicial position. Because I think emergency and urgency will have to be very clearly identified by the courts when bail needs to be granted.
Interesting. So yeah, that sometimes sends out a signal that netas are different or special or whatever, right? In some ways, isn't it, to the layman?
True, but I think historically, right from 1951, our courts have provided that kind of a different treatment. So netas have become a class apart from the common man. So when the netas approach the court with any urgent petition, for instance, if you take Tamil Nadu, when the ADMK symbol issue came up, if normally it was another society, let's say a sports federation that came up, no midnight proceedings would have been undertaken. They would have said, you conduct your elections, after elections, let us see what needs to be done. Anyways, everything is subject to court's decision. The same could have happened in ADMK's case. But that did not happen. So the ADMK was provided a midnight hearing, and then morning 9 a.m. a judgment was passed. The entire AGM was stayed, and so on. So this has been happening since 1951. We've seen this when the Congress broke during Indira Gandhi's time in the 1970s. Also, Kamraj tried to approach the court, and the court gave them early morning hearing at 7 a.m. So these things have happened in the past. I think partly the courts are correct in doing it because the court sees that these are all effective instruments of democracy, so they want to give them that opportunity. But I think that effective instruments of democracy should also seek for these things within reason at appropriate time, should not approach the courts and pressurize the courts just because they're instruments of democracy that they should be given a different pedestal, whereas a common man should not necessarily be given that pedestal. I think socially, apart from legally, socially that responsibility should be there on the elected representative and the political party.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So now this recent issue about Ms. Maliwal getting beaten up, and she has given her views, and she has registered some complaint, and Bibhav has been arrested, I think, and is
Yes.
remanded for 5 days.
Yes.
So what do you think about that? What are you hearing?
See, two things. One, I think legally what's happened so far is accurate. I think there couldn't be better process. There is a woman that is alleging of assault, harassment, and physically being injured. So, will that be the case? I think it's appropriate on the police to have immediately taken cognizance, registering an FIR and proceeding the inquiry. And prima facie, once they've come to understand what is the position, then they've taken action, and the personal assistant to Arvind Kejriwal has already been arrested. I think this is a logical step. I would think this is fair, even in the present election scenario and the speed at which it's happened. But I think there's a lot more to go in terms of the inquiry, because I think there are contradictory CCTV footages coming through, contradictory evidences being provided by members of the Aam Aadmi Party. Sitting MP Sanjeev Jain is providing a favorable evidence to Ms. Maliwal, whereas there is contradictory evidence being provided by some of the other members of the party. So the police will have to take all of this into consideration. Police, unlike other instances, should probably speed up the inquiry in these matters, because uh, evidences get very easily interfered with in these kind of scenarios. Because people get made political promises, sometimes financial, sometimes not just economical, but also in terms of their offices. So if those things happen, then the nature of the evidences and the quality of the evidence will change. So police will have to act really fast in terms of gathering evidence, documenting them, and presenting them to the court. That way, tomorrow, anyone wanting to change their stance will have to provide appropriate and valid reasons as to why and how they change those stance. That way, quality of evidence will not reduce. So that way, I think urgency will have to be shown in completing the inquiry. That part is a requirement. And I think Vibhav is also now making counter allegations. But if he's making such counter allegations, he will have to go through the formal process, register a complaint, and then try to seek action. Otherwise,
I
I
think
think
he
he's
has
only trying
registered,
to.
right?
Yes.
I think he has registered a complaint
He's
from his
registered
end
a
also.
complaint,
Yeah.
yes, but I don't think his own people who he think are evidences are cooperating enough, because otherwise they should have appeared before the police already to give their statements. My understanding is police has not been able to get those statements yet. That's the reason his inquiry is being slow. But representative of Aam Aadmi Party are trying to say that only one side is being inquired fast. If you have other supporting evidences and documents, you're supposed to provide it at the first instance. You can't merely file a complaint and say, no, no, it is your job to go collect. You have these things at your hand, then you provide them and assist the police the entire process. That's something that AAP is failing. I think it's merely an election drama that they normally do. I remember AAP from the time of their inception, apart from taking advantage of uh, Anna Hazare, they also started using the chapel throwing incidents, the ink flopping incidents, all these things where their own members would throw and try to get some attention and drama time and TRP. So AAP is very skillful and has had a history of doing that. So this may be one of those instances also. Either way, they're trying to deflect from the fact that Arvind Kejriwal is corrupt. Arvind Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party has been identified as being corrupt, as being beneficiaries of such corruption, both financial and otherwise. So now this is a deflection for them before Delhi goes to polls on 25th and Punjab goes to polls. So I think that is where this stands.
Hmm. So, what do you think from a political side of things or a strategy side of things? Sanjay Singh first comes out and says that okay, yeah, this has happened, so strict action will be taken on Bibhav and all that.
Yeah.
Then a couple of days later, or one day later, Atishi Marlena comes and says that yeah, but he had just one side of the view, and he did not have the other side, and all that. This hodgepodge. But was this thought through thing, or was it a goof up?
I think it's a huge goof up one. Two, it's a drama that they did not think about as to how reactions would pan out and how
Hmm.
it should be played. So for them, see, Aam Aadmi Party came into the fore after the CWG scam, after Nirbhaya rape incident, and the
Hmm.
multiple flaws in the 15-year Delhi government and a 10-year UPA government. Their entire plank was action against corruption. But I don't know what happened in their action against corruption. The DVAC with the Delhi government or the Delhi government's action on corruption against all Congress leaders is completely gone to a silence. I don't know where it is. They keep talking about Lokpal. I don't know how many complaints have they taken to such Lokpal that they have created and what is their status either. And two, if you look at the entire corruption allegation of Aam Aadmi Party, that stemmed from the Congress. Ajay Makand was the person who registered the complaint.
Correct.
Supriya Srinath was the one who spoke about it in the press conference. Today, they both sit in the same armchair and claim that they are very clean. So that is their nature. So if your intention is to clean up corruption from the society, you should not be aligning with the corrupt for any reason. That should be the first agenda. Second, you should not be identified with corruption. Even a perception of it is bad for politics, is bad for your promises. But Aam Aadmi Party is being in such a contrarian position. Their promises to people was different. Today, their position is different. So they are not a clean party. They're a corrupt party. This agenda that they have raised before the people in 2012 all the way up to 2016 is only a farce, is a mirage that they put forth before the people came to office. Today, they have not been able to establish any of their promises, perform according to their will. And now they're trying to sideline this entire thing by Ms. Maliwal's statements, by what has happened internally within their party, and these counter narratives that are coming from within the same fold. You see, you look at this, I also look at it as two different things. One is trying to shear away from the public the opinion that Arvind Kejriwal Aam Aadmi Party is a corrupt party. But at the same time, the members within the party like Sanjay Jain and Atishi are probably vying for control in the party tomorrow if Arvind Kejriwal is not there. What happens if Arvind
Sanjay
Kejriwal
Singh,
is
right?
not there? Who?
Sanjay Singh, yeah.
Sanjay Singh, sorry.
Hmm.
So what happens? Who runs the party and so on, right? So that I think is starting to play out already. Probably Chadda coming back from the UK may also be a part to that, to see who has control of which part of the organization, who has control. In fact, if you look at the Punjab unit of the Aam Aadmi Party, it's completely gone silent on what's happening in Delhi. Because I think
Hmm.
Mr. Maan wants to keep control there, irrespective of what happens to Aam Aadmi Party. So all these people are now trying to take away little bites of whatever flesh they can carry out of whatever remains in the Aam Aadmi Party. That may be another thing. See, and another most important, Arvind Kejriwal individually first said he's never going to join politics. Then he joins electoral politics. Then he says his interest is not in public office, but then he takes up public office. Then he says his family members are not going to be beneficiaries of it. Then he says his assets are not going to change. But then he takes the government official residence, look at the lifestyle change that him and his family members have. Today, his wife started taking to electoral campaigns and to organizing party events. So the man is just only of contrarian views. He never tells the public the truth. He's become a standard politician of the 70s Congress, where you merely made statements that you never meant in reality. So that's today's status. I think the people see through it. And if you just look at electoral numbers also, BJP in all of the 7 constituencies had a well over 50% vote share last time winning it. And I think the Aam Aadmi came closest at 37% in one of the constituencies. Even if BJP were to, if you were to say that 13 plus 4, another 17% of a vote share can be reduced, Aam Aadmi Party will have to show that kind of effective work on the ground at Delhi. And we'll have to show that that is our intention. This is what we will do if we come to the Lok Sabha. And Aam Aadmi Party has not been able to show that using their parliamentarians in Punjab nor in Delhi. So that is their position, either in the Rajya Sabha or the Lok Sabha. Classic example is now Ms. Maliwal. What has her role been prior to all this as a Rajya Sabha MP? What is her role as an administrator within the party? Today, what accusations is she making? So if you take all these into consideration, I think this is a party that's heavily doubting its own identity, is only throwing to people that we are only contrary in views, who do not have any alignment with the public sentiment, nor within ourselves. That is their position, I think.
But yeah, a couple of times, actually, Delhi voters have given them a chance for whatever reason. Probably they've done some job around education. That's what some people say. Okay, schooling system has improved and all that they say. Probably they got votes for that. But again, yeah, from my perspective also, I'm not very sure that will continue the way it is, considering what people have seen of this whole party and the leader.
Yes.
Right, but what do you think about this other drama that's coming up now? Kejriwal gave out a video yesterday saying that he will go to PM's residence with all the leaders and daring him to arrest and blah, 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 and all that. So how do you see that?
See, this is taking a leaf out of the Congress book again. I don't think Arvind Kejriwal has any originality. When the National Herald case came up, the
Hmm.
Congress did not have any face to come up with, no statements to be made to the public. So all that the mother and the son did was took out a long protest and work what they could have reached in 20 minutes, made the entire Delhi public suffer a huge traffic issue, and took about 3 hours reaching to the court, and then made a huge public statement after their appearance. To date, they have not been able to discharge themselves out of that. If they say that there is categorically no evidence, there is no prima facie basis, they should have filed discharge petitions before the court. They should have said the assessment order is wrong before the tax authorities, or they should have gone to appellate court and sought a quash. They have not been successful in any of the three proceedings. That is the status of the National Herald case. So today again, Arvind Kejriwal is the same. He's trying to play out a drama. If I were in the shoes of any of the BJP leaders at the office, what I would do is, anyways, all the tall leaders are out campaigning. I'd open the doors for them, given the Delhi heat now and with the election, give them some chas and lassi, invite them, give them the attention in press, and tell the public that all that they are capable of hurting you, your traffic, your time, not coming out with the truth. All that they need to do is not walk to the BJP's office, open up their headquarters, bring out all papers and documents that are there in their office, put out all CCTV camera footage. And my understanding from today morning's press brief from the police is that the CCTV camera footage has been deleted in multiple instances. Some instances, the hard drives are empty, and some instances, the records are not available. As a matter of fact, some landlines are bit pulled out. So if that be the case at the Aam Aadmi Party's office, then we will have to imagine what is their intention, in what evidences they want to provide the police, and what they want to show the public. So all that AAP to show that they are clean should have done is show the complete CCTV footage unedited, made it public, upload it on YouTube. Today they have the technology and the means to do it. Put it on a drive, make it only accessible for viewing for everyone, and then the public would have realized what's happening. But that is not the case. They have a visitor log in the Aam Aadmi Party's office. I understand from my visits early in the day when they had their organization. Today, they could have published what is their visitor log, who are the people who visit the office, what is their security protocol. They're not ready to do that. They're not ready to give to the police. They're not ready to share it with the public. But instead, they want to make a drama, which they've always been prone to. Throwing ink and throwing chappal is not due to them. They will stoop to this also. So that is all is what they're capable of.
You talked about Raghav Chadha coming back, right? Why? That was an eerie silence on his part for such a long time. And he was also out of action when Mr. Kejriwal was arrested, right? So, but why is he coming back now? What's cooking up there?
I don't want to be a fortune teller in what's happening at AAP's position, but let me put it this way. I remember growing up when I was told, in your 20s, if you're not a socialist, you don't have a heart, and in your 40s, if you're not a capitalist, you don't have a brain. So that kind of a position, when I was in my 20s, I came back from Canada. I wanted to be involved in social work and active politics, and the action against corruption that started with Anna Hazare and Aam Aadmi Party started early on. I had the opportunity to witness these people from the front row, Atish Himalena and Raghav Chadha and all that. They made a really, really positive impression. I will not deny that.
Yep.
If I had the opportunity and if I hadn't seen Modi and his work in Gujarat, I think very likely I would have leaned towards them. That's how their position was. But
Me too,
where
yeah,
I realized
right.
was on the stage, how they started restricting what needs to be brought to the public view, who gets to interact with whom. That started raising doubts in my mind. And the next stage of doubts come in. There are some people whose ideology I may not agree with, but they're strong people who have this affection that the country should improve, go forward. But ideologically, they may have a different perspective. Someone like a Yogendra Yadav or a Prashant Bhushan. Their methods and means may be different, something not I favor with. But I wouldn't really place them as wrong people in the society. Their object and intention is that the country has to progress. What they mean or the means for it and the end objective may be different for them. The manner in which they were ousted from the party and the manner in which ticket allocation happened, how Shazia Ilmi was treated, and today how other members in the party, Mr. Sanjay Singh is being treated, or how their
Kumar
own Rajya Sabha
Vishwas.
MP,
Kumar Vishwas
Kumar
also
Vishal,
came
everyone,
out, and yeah.
right? So that shows the party's nature and the members within the party, that you are not always clean, you are not always sound, your intentions are not proper. So today, I think with Raghav Chadha and Atishi Marlena also, they were trying to gauge what their respective positions are. Tomorrow, what happens if AAP exists or doesn't exist, or if Mr. Kejriwal is at the helm of affairs or not, what happens? I think they are playing their cards close to their hearts, trying to figure out who gets to play what role, because they have that active voice among the youth, they have their active voice in Delhi, and to a limited extent in Punjab. So I think that is what they're trying to play. It's more a opportunistic role that they're playing at present. and not a larger role for the benefit of the people. That's a very sad scenario. My understanding is anyone who comes to politics, it may be in any form, electoral or otherwise, your intention at the end of the day is to serve the people. But if people do not have that intention and are looking at protecting their office within the party and their office within the government, then your ultimate motto of serving the people is gone. And then I don't think they should be in politics anymore. So that's probably where I see Atishi Marlena and Raghav Chadha. They should not be in politics anymore because their intention is not to serve the people, but is to protect their respective offices.
Right, right. And yeah, as you said, the party has come from where it was earlier down to where it is now. Okay, the principles and the lofty goals or lofty ideas that they had at that time, it sounded really good. And as you mentioned, I was a big fan even before 2014, before Modi
Yeah.
came in. I was a big fan of him. Okay, but later I started seeing he is Mr. Kejriwal, especially was taking some promise on his kids, saying that okay, I'll never join Congress. Why all that? And then you join
Yeah.
again. Okay, and what about the promise? And then you don't really respect the promise that you are giving, right? So that really turned me off. And after that, yeah, so many things have happened anyways. All right, so now coming back, I would like your understanding from a legal standpoint on the recent ED charge sheet that has been filed again, naming AAP party as a whole in the charge sheet. So what is all that about?
See, the enforcement directorate, we will have to understand, is generally looking at crimes revolving around money laundering. So whoever is involved in the transaction, is cost for the transaction, beneficiary of the transaction, all are involved. So that can be the medium, the manner, the beneficiaries, the people with the residual monies, people who have shown that money to be proper and fair income and further gone on to gain from that. So when I say, let me put an example forward. Let's say there is 100 rupee that's given in a bribe to an individual. The individual takes that bribe, utilizes that for 5 different objects, 20 rupees each. 40 maybe just for electioneering, other purposes, giving further bribes and so on. But the other 60 split into 20 each, one for investing in business, another for buying property, another for someone's education. Fairly lofty goal though. But then all three was further towards making more money. So now that money is also laundered money, right? So here, the enforcement director has been very clear that what the Aam Aadmi Party has done is money has been obtained in illegal manner, either by defrauding the tax agency, defrauding the public, by corrupt means or by any other means. That money has come into the fold of the Aam Aadmi Party by individuals belonging to the Aam Aadmi Party, individuals supporting the Aam Aadmi Party. And now, whoever is a beneficiary of that, whatever you utilize that money for, all of this will have to be questioned. That money will have to be brought back to the exchequer, used for the benefit of the people. Therefore, Aam Aadmi Party, being a beneficiary of the transaction, being a means and manner to the transaction, is appropriately arrayed as an accused. So that is the reason why Aam Aadmi Party here, being a part to the transaction, being a beneficiary of the transaction, also having gaining further from the transaction, is an appropriate and a necessary accused to this matter. So that's the simple logic behind it. I think the enforcement director has done a fair job. And in fact, I think this is one of the faster investigation matters where the enforcement director has filed a charge sheet. Otherwise, the enforcement directorate has also been known to have been complicit in the process or has been delayed because the High Court or the Supreme Court have granted multiple stays at various stages and ED has not been able to proceed forward. But here the courts have also assisted. The Delhi High Court has questioned the enforcement directorate. They're not going to grant a stay. You go ahead, complete the inquiry and file a report. And the enforcement director has done it with good pace and has provided necessary evidences to the entire list.
Okay. That's very interesting. So probably there are kind of hard times still further for AAP and as well as Mr. Kejriwal, right? Because and his associates in jail already, who are languishing in jail for quite some time. Because logically speaking, as a layman, courts will not keep somebody just arbitrarily in jail for such a long time. Right, there must be something around that. Okay, so some strong evidence that's already been produced, which the court is convinced about, and probably that's the way we laymen see.
Yes.
Okay, so and this, I think then the law will take its own course, and based on the speed that we are seeing, I think things will really kind of come to a quick conclusion. All right, let's see how that pans out.
Yes. See, in fact, I think taking a leaf over your statement there, the
Mm.
courts generally have this principle. An innocent should never be punished, one,
Mm.
even if 100 other accused go away, right? Two is bail is a norm and arrest and being in prison is the exception. So if the courts have taken the exception route here, the court should have had something that is not just prima
Mm.
facie, but something that is even more strong for them to deem it necessary that this person will have to be behind bars. And in fact, one thing going further, even the interim bail condition that was granted to Arvind Kejriwal, you'll have to see that the courts were very clear. They said
Mm.
interim bail is granted for the special reason, but you can't interact with any of the witnesses, evidences, anyone else involved allegedly in the scam. So the idea is that this person should not influence the investigation, the investigative process, the evidences, and the further trial in this matter. So that has been the court's very clear indication. So if the court thought there was no prima facie case, the court would not have laid those conditions. The court thought there is a prima facie case, but there is an exception. We want to show that the democratic instrument is protected. Therefore, we are sending you out to campaign. But you can't, for your benefit while you're campaigning, interact with the people involved in the scam, because then you're only trying to assuage witnesses and try to move evidences away from the investigative agency, which can't be permitted. So the courts have already made a prima facie opinion that there is a necessary case. Now, the strength of the witnesses and evidence is what the ED needs to prove. The prima facie case is already established.
But how can you control it, right? Yes, the court has given its directives saying that you should not do certain things. Fine. But how can you control it? Is there any other mechanism? What happens really in these kind of situations?
See, two things. One is the investigative agency and other law enforcement agency will have to be vigilant,
Mm.
constantly observing so what is happening, what transpires, and so on. And in Arvind Kejriwal's case, he's also in public limelight. So I think the public will also place a strong opinion and view of what happens and so on. And political parties should also take the duty and onus on them to question. Ajay Makan, as much as he took the duty upon himself to file the complaint against on the liquor gate scam, now has the responsibility equally, despite this man being an ally to them, to prove the charges that they have made. They will have to be responsible. Otherwise, the Congress will come out as someone who is hypocritical and only makes these allegations when they are in the opposition. And when people ally with them, the crime disappears. They can't be, they claim that the BJP is a washing machine, but I have a feeling the Congress has been that way for about 60, 70 years. And they are trying to play the same role today.
Yeah, well said. All right, so now switching gears a bit, coming to Himachal Pradesh, you've been there very recently. How do you see the prospects for BJP there or Congress there, and what's going on? What do you see there?
See, there are multiple angles at which we need to see Himachal Pradesh. I primarily spent a lot of time around Mandi. That's a district that's very close to me. I've spent a lot of time growing up also in some of the parts of the constituency in Mandi, particularly district Kulu. And I spent a fair amount of time in Hamirpur. BJP has two star candidates in both Mandi and Hamirpur. In Mandi, we have Kangana Ranaut of the Bollywood fame.
Yep.
She's also a local girl. And Hamirpur is with our own former youth wing president and former minister, Anurag Thakur. So among the four candidates in Himachal for the BJP, the two grasp a lot of mileage. And for the Congress, among the four that they have, Anand Sharma and Vikramaditya Singh grasp a lot of. Anand Sharma, obviously, one of the stalwarts of leaders in Congress, and Vikramaditya Singh, because he comes from a royal family and carries a large reputation, and is also competing with Kangana Ranaut. So this being said, or laying the base, across Himachal Pradesh, there are three views that remain. This doesn't matter as to which faction people come from, which family they belong to, or what. One, Modi is generally a reliable leader. Doesn't matter you're a Congressee, you're a BJP supporter, you're a Modi fan, you're a Sanghi, you're an anti-Sanghi, you're a minority, you're specifically a Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, you're a migrant who's become a Himachali. For all of these people, Modi is a reliable leader. That's the undercurrent across Himachal Pradesh. Two is Congress came with a lot of promises in the recently held assembly elections. Congress has not moved an inch forward in any of its promises. So that brings in some kind of a dissatisfaction even within the Congress's cadre. Because when they go and talk to their neighbors, their own
Mm.
Booth Karyakartas, they go and ask for votes, they raise doubts. See, we made so many promises, said 5 years of BJP government in Himachal Pradesh was not worth, and we told every government servant that we will be a better master when we're in office, but we've not changed any of their lives. So this is a huge factor across Himachal Pradesh. The third important factor is Himachal Pradesh, unlike some of the other regions, has at least one member in every family that is our government, almost every family. So let's say every fourth person in Himachal Pradesh has some kind of a government job. And every fourth person is in some kind of service job that has to do with either tourism or academic service. So these people have a very direct interaction with the people on a day-to-day basis. So these people play a huge role in influencing the people's mindsets and also taking opinions from them. So my interaction with the government servants, people in schools and colleges, people in the tourism sector was heavily in favor of the BJP compared to the Congress. Because the first thing, like I said, partly the Congress though made lofty promise and a year and a half is done. And the BJP government, since it's come in 2014, has fulfilled every major promise required in the academic arena and in the tourism.
Mm-hmm.
See, for instance, the Atal Tunnel, which was a project that was envisioned in Indira Gandhi's time, prior to the 1971 war, but was not fulfilled by anyone until Vajpayee laid the foundation stone in 2000, 99, and 2000 the construction started. And during the UPA rule, it miserably slowed down. For two reasons, the Atal Tunnel is very important, or three reasons that we put. One, for all the local people to travel for their emergency requirement from especially Lahaul, Spiti, or from even Leh when the Srinagar route is closed for them to come down to Himachal, Manali becomes the most proximate. But if Rohtang and Atal Tunnel are closed, they do not have access to the southern part of the country. In fact, for a very long time, the people north of the Atal Tunnel used to claim that we do not have access to mainland. That's how bad the conditions were for them. So if our own brethren in another part of the country think that they don't have access to the mainland and treat the remainder part of the India as a different arm and fold, government should have done something very emergent very early on to improve their lives. This was failed. And second thing is, as far as our defense services are concerned, border roads have two different routes, but that is 2 days delay if the Atal Tunnel is not there. You'll have to go the longer route, either via Pathankot, go into Ujum, or go from Srinagar all the way to Kargil or Alli. So these are much longer routes. It delays your defense procurement and access by at least half a day to a max of 2 days. So the Atal Tunnel changes that entire thing. For the tourist population to go to Rohtang, normally this would have taken about half a day. It's a 4-hour journey. Now it's reduced to about 30 minutes.
Wow.
So that is a huge change. And when I say the Atal Tunnel is not just by itself a tourist attraction, just because it holds the world record of being one of the highest motorable tunnels in the world, highest altitude, longest tunnel, and all that. But it also facilitates our tourists to travel to beautiful valleys on the other side of the tunnel, which normally, me being a visitor to Himachal Pradesh since 1989, uh, I couldn't have traveled on worse snow conditions or poor road conditions for half the years. But now, irrespective of the weather condition, everyone will be able to travel to the other side, visit the beautiful valleys, provide local population with the bread and breakfast accommodation there, provide them with tourist guide opportunities, provide them with opportunity to run cafes and restaurants, provide them opportunity to run small businesses, running ATVs, smaller guided tours, smaller treks, and so on. All these opportunities bring up and open up the economy to other seasonal revenue for them. They were dependent on seasonal farming. So for half the year, they were dependent on surface farming, and for a third of the year or a quarter of the year for below the surface farming. So outside of this, they do not have any other vocation. So now this tourism opens up a larger economy to them. This is something Modi's promised. People keep talking about Modi's promises of giving employment. What Modi talked about is not directly facilitating a government job and saying you'll be unemployed, but saying that I will open up the market, I will show you how to fish, and you can go and fish for yourself. That's what Modi's done here.
Right.
And which project has failed for about 40 years. We started in 2014. In 2020, during peak COVID, he was able to inaugurate and we were able to operate. And during peak COVID, all medical facilities were accessible to people in Lahaul, Spiti, and Kinnaur. which was not accessible to them in 60 years of independent India. So that's the major change that we will have to look at. And another brief instance also. I think when I used to go trekking, even as recent as 2013-14, there was no cell phone reception. Once you get in the mountains towards Biaskund, get to Lawal, Kinnaur, unless and otherwise you have BSNL or landline, you have absolutely no cell phone reception. And BSNL also will be very patchy in certain regions. You have to go to the higher side of the valley, get some network, or in certain mountain ridges you will get. Otherwise, you have no access. But today, cell phone and internet data reception is phenomenal. In fact, I took a virtual conference for work from sitting on the Laos side of the border today. So that's how good our networks have improved. And so once communication networks improve, every village there uses Beam. So I can just scan and make payments. I don't have to carry cash. Earlier, if I had to travel, I had to think I had to pay the homestay, I had to pay in cash. They may not have bank accounts. Today, everyone has a bank account. Everyone has a database smartphone. Everyone
Thanks
has
to the
a
digital
workplace.
revolution that Modi has brought about.
Absolutely. So these changes, people look at it very positively. So when Modi talks of his guarantees, these are the guarantees that people say, we believe in these guarantees. Aapne Swachh ko lekar aaya, you made our environment clean, you provided us with necessary restroom services, you provided us better gas facilities, you provided water. See, water is not scarcity in Himachal. But to get that water, people have to walk down to the streams. Now, if I can have these pipes come down in peak winter and in the middle of summer for all the tourists and for the locals, that water-based access to pipe-based access to water is a much needed requirement. This has been provided. So these are the guarantees that people are happy about. So that in effect puts an undercurrent in favor of Modi. See, people may say that there is no Modi wave. A Modi wave does not have to be apparent. Doesn't have to be a tsunami. If it's an undercurrent that still takes him across, I think that in itself is sufficient as far as the elections is concerned. Now, going very specific to the constituency Mandi, because coming from Tamil Nadu, I think Talaivi is contesting there.
Movie was there also, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So she playing Jayalalitha, and
Correct.
normally when candidates all of a sudden are dropped in a particular constituency, they're looked at as people coming from outside of the
Outsiders
area.
and
Post elections, they may not show up and all that. The advantage that Kangana Ranaut has had is she's seen as a local by the people, not because she's originally from Mandi, but she's able to speak their Pahadi language. She does not go campaigning in English and Hindi like some of the other candidates. For instance, Sashi Tharoor goes to Thiruvananthapuram campaigns in English, and when he speaks in Malayalam, he doesn't sound like a Malayali. But that is not the case when Kangana Ranaut is in Mandi. She goes to each of the districts or each of the villages, she's able to speak in their dialect. So that brings the people closer to her. And she's able to take across the promises that Modi has been keeping. She says, these are the guarantees that Modi is wanting to bring. I will be your daughter. May is dharti ki beti hu. I am going to bring these things and deliver it to you. So that is what she talks about. And that makes people starting to believe her. She's not an outsider in a classical sense. And she's fighting a hard battle, I'm not going to say no, because Vikramaditya Singh is a very dependable candidate. He's from the local royal family. The royal family, unlike some of the other royal families across the country, has a very good and positive reputation. Someone culturally known to have been protective with the local people. They are patriotic, unlike some of the other Congress leaders who talk of national interest. When some of the Congress leaders questioned Balakot, he was someone who said, we are behind the armed forces. We will support the armed forces. We will not raise a question. So these are the kind of credentials that Vikramaditya Singh comes from. He's not a classical Congress politician. In fact, I think if he was in BJP, he would have gotten a ticket himself. But when that be the contest, it makes for a very interesting contest in Mandi. But Kangana Ranaut, apart from all this, has one astra that no one else does. Modi is always with her. I think that plays a larger role as well. The common man extremely believes in her guarantee. In fact, there was a panchayat leader that I had worked with in district Kulu. I will not name. So presently, she's part of she's a sarpanch there, and she's a 70-year-old sarpanch. Her family, different members of the family have had different roles in the panchayat in the past. She favors the Congress, and she says to her village, if votes will have to be cast, and if it was her choice solely without taking her political identity, it will go to Modi. So that's the nature that the local people have. That's their belief. Because see, being a sarpanch, you know on the ground what is the reality, what your people think. You meet them on a daily basis, especially in a smaller village like that, right? So And that brings to question how Congress has lost its leadership, its cream, faith among the public in their leadership, both in the state as well as at the center. They're not seeing Rahul as a leader, they're not seeing Kharge as a leader, they're not seeing Sonia Gandhi as a leader. So while that be there, I don't see Congress having a way out. And I don't think this is a phenomenon that's unique to Mandi and Himachal Pradesh, but I think this is a phenomenon that's there throughout the country. People keep questioning if Rahul Gandhi is a leader in himself. See, one of the questions that was asked to me by a traveling youth uh, and a guide who's from Kangra district. So, what the Kangra district guide asked me is, "Sir, I'm going to go cast my vote. Tomorrow, I'm going to expect that my representative is going to support a leader. What I expect from that leader is that he makes promises, he sits in the house and he discusses our issues. But there is one leader that my party supports. The leader goes half the time on vacation outside the country. After an election loss, he is not to be seen. He does not take responsibility. When I lose an election for a society that I run, I try and compete and show my faith in the people so that next time in the society or in the panchayat I win. But whereas for the entire nation, if this man does this, how do I believe him? And one more interesting question the traveling youth asked me. The youth, this is the first time voter she is. She's 18. She's going to cast her election for the first time in Delhi. This 18-year-old asked me, "Sir, I am told that I will have to obey the law. I have to obey the parliament. I have to obey the constitution." This man, who is a member of the parliament, takes up a bill that has been passed by the parliament, has been made an act, comes to the public, and has the audacity to tear it in public. That is a punishable IPC offense. So if I do something of that nature, I get questioned. Why does that man get a preferential treatment? How do I rely on someone who does not have respect for any of these instruments? In Parliament, you have the right to question. You have the right to question in the meeting of the political parties. You had a right to question within your working committee. You did not do any of those things. You took an act, you tore it down. It is not a question of dissent. Dissent happens in a very appropriate, acceptable constitutional manner. Here, dissent did not happen. Here, a punishable offense took place. How do I trust in this man and cast my vote on his name? That was a simple question put forth by the 18-year-old. No one had an answer for it. So I think that is the place where Congress will have to start from, show that they are capable of running this government, respecting the constitution, respecting its people. Congress has not done that since Indira Gandhi. I think Narasimha Rao was an aberration for the entire history of Congress. Congress has not seen that irrespective elsewhere. And I think today, if Congress does not change its position, Congress Mukt Bharat will not happen because BJP is successful, but will also happen because of Congress's own inherent flaws.
Yep. So great insights on Himachal Pradesh. No wonder all the opinion polls are showing BJP as almost sweeping in Himachal Pradesh. Let's see how that goes. But thank you so much, Ramji, for all your time today and all the great insights. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Take care.
Nice talking.
Bye-bye. Namaste.